I just love working at 30 Rockefeller Plaza here in Midtown. It's a wonderful place to make a living. This is the 8th floor. I can't tell you all the wonderful things that have happened here on the 8th floor. And now, I got it all to myself. I mean, it's nice, you know? People recognize me, ask me for autograph. All of a sudden, I come to work one day, there's another guy. I've never seen this guy in my life. Just when you think you're a star and you have it all to yourself, all of a sudden, look who's here. Don't tell him I did this. You know, come on. Guy looks so familiar to me. Come on in, I want to show you my place. We've been doing fine all by ourselves here. Suddenly, we got a carpetbagger here from California. Incidentally, did you ever meet Norman Rockwell? Look at there. That actually is Norman Rockwell. And here's me in my other life. But we do have a guest today and a whole bunch of people waiting. Hi, Jennifer.
How are you doing?
Hey, Joe.
Hello.
Hey, am I kidding these people? This is a famous place, the 8th floor, 30 Rock. Come on out here. Did Arturo Toscanini have the NBC Symphony Orchestra here?
Yes, he did. 1939.
Really? In what studio?
Studio 8H.
I see.
Right down the hall.
And this is Studio
8G.
8G.
I think that's where Phil Donahue does his show.
I think it is, too. It's a much smaller place. Come on in. We've got a very exciting guest today. I want you to meet all the nice people that have waited for us. How you doing? Wait a minute. Where's the guest? We have no guest here. Hold on just a second. Hang on just a second. Hold this for me. I've got to go get the guest. Don't leave me. I promise them a very big audience for today's show. Just a minute. Hang on just a second. All right, here we go. Hold on just a second. Boy, I tell you what, some people are reliable and some people aren't. You saw the size of my studio? Get a load of this studio. I'm telling you, this is the big time. This makes my studio look like a cigar box. Hey, my man, it's showtime.
Oh, hi, Phil.
What are you doing sitting around here?
Just reading the newspaper.
Oh, I see. Kind of relaxing here on the East Coast.
Kind of relaxing.
I got all kinds of people waiting for you. How'd you get a big studio like this?
Bribery, intimidation, the usual.
NBC Symphony Orchestra? I mean, right here.
Right here.
Not to mention Saturday Night Live.
Saturday Night Live, this is their studio.
Now you, my man, I tell you what, we don't give this studio to everybody. I have begged for this studio.
Oh, really?
For 10 years now, I've been waiting for him just to say, hey, Phil, you got the big studio. Nah. You come in from L.A., kaboom, just like that.
You know, I'll be out of here Monday. It'll be all yours.
Well, I'll be back to our own lonely self here. Hey, have we got people waiting for you or not? Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Leno, right here. Right there. Right here. Oh, all right. How are you? Hello. I'm telling you what.
Well, thanks. How are you?
19... It's 1977, his first appearance on The Tonight Show. He just made his first communion just before this. Watch this, 1977. Get a load of the clothes here on both these guys.
I'm glad that you're all in a good mood tonight because it's always a pleasure to introduce a new comedian to The Tonight Show. This young man's name is Jay Leno, and this is his first appearance on The Tonight Show. Later this year, he's going to make his film debut in The Silver Bears with Michael Caine, which is not bad. Would you welcome, please, Jay Leno. Jay?
Thank you. I'm originally from the United States. Any United States people here tonight? Oh, what a small world. Isn't that funny, no matter where you're from? You know, I've been out of California for about 4 or 5 months. I just got back, and I notice now, when you call directory assistance here, you get a recorded message.
If you're unable to find the number in your directory, please stay on the line, and operator will assist.
Called the weather today.
Have you looked outside?
You reading about the weather back east? What's been happening in Buffalo and Pittsburgh? All right.
This man will back me
I
up.
had a heckler in the first minute.
It's the same man who talks to the television at home. Look out, Kojak!
Thanks, viewer.
This is Jay Leno with his brand new wardrobe. Boy, what a suit.
Yes.
I'll tell you what. We'll be back to let this audience talk to Jay Leno in just a moment.
Was on the news all week wearing these sweatshirts that said no comment. Maybe you saw it. And her bodyguard, you know, that big fat guy, he had a T-shirt on too, not quite as good. His just said, duh. Nothing. Take a lot, man. No, that's all right. That's okay. This is good.
I'm going to call it like I see him now, brother.
That's what I want. That's what we want. Call him like you see him.
We're funnier here, Jay. This is funnier here. This New York City is funnier than anywhere else in the nation.
It's a very funny place, actually.
Yes.
We've been getting great crowds. Well, you know, it is a little different. In Los Angeles, people sort of have to drive to the studio. It's like going to the mall. You sort of plan to go there. Whereas here, you're right in the middle of the city, so just odd people wander in. Just look at the person next to you. I rest my case. Look at that guy. How are you, sir?
Hey, Jay, I'm from Boston.
Oh, nice
We don't
to see you.
care.
No, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
I just moved here, and I'm looking for a job in television. I was wondering, how do I get started besides kissing up to a couple of hosts?
How do you get started?
Thank you. That won't hurt. Jay.
First step, get rid of that Boston accent. I just got started. I want a job in TV. Well, actually, that's not a bad piece of advice, actually. I mean, you should learn how to talk, you know. Yeah. Not that you don't know how to talk. I mean, you talk fine, but regionalisms, unless you're sort of playing a particular sort of character, it's probably best to have sort of that mid-American speech, so everybody sort of understands what you're talking about. Yeah. I mean, I got rid of my Boston accent, so people don't really know where you're from until I go, "Can't," you know. Yes, sir.
You just got your tunnel, and now you're moving here.
Phil,
What is it?
I want to say...
They grabbed the mic here, too. You notice that?
He must be from Boston.
It's nice
also.
to see you, Jay, dear, but this question is for you, Phil.
Yeah.
What I wanted to know there, did you finalize the filming of the execution?
Oh, that's funny. You're going to bring this up now in the middle of this program. I'm not allowed to talk about this.
Thank you very
much.
Actually, I have a joke about it tonight. Yeah. I was going to say, Phil, now if you do get the execution, at the end of this, your show, they're going to say, all guests executed on the Donahue show spend their final night at the Berkshire Hotel. Yes, enjoy your final meal.
Mr. Leno, my friend and I are professional sign language interpreters, and we know you recently had a deaf person on your show. We were wondering what that experience is like for you, working with an interpreter instead of talking directly to your guest.
Actually, I've done that a lot. I've played that college, one of the colleges
Gallaudet.
where they're hearing impaired, and they had an interpreter. And a lot of times at the show, I'll have an interpreter. We're the first show, I think, when I took over the Tonight Show, that was one of the things we asked if the network would do as part of the contract thing, to have the hearing impaired, the closed captioned in there. I don't find it any different. The only times it gets a little bit different is I tend to speak very quickly, and you throw out a lot of obscure brand names and things, and sometimes the people kind of stumble a little bit, but it is odd to tell the joke, look over there, look back, and then people go, ha, 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 ha. You know, there's a little bit of a delay, but it's no different. It's fine. Same thing.
I'll tell you, one of the most challenging moments of my life was interviewing Henry Kissinger.
No, having Kissinger?
Henry Kissinger, he tells you what your question is, and then he answers. And you actually made him funny. Here is Henry.
He was very funny.
Here's Henry Kissinger on the Today Show.
The
Tonight Show.
Now, something else I've always wanted to ask you about, because I remember when I was in college, that was the big story, that you were kind of the lady killer in town, and you squiring attractive women around. Where did that whole reputation come from?
I tell you, I was once at a cocktail party where a lady came up to me and said, I understand you're a fascinating man. She said, fascinate me. And I did about as well in answering her request as I'm going to do in answering your question.
And that was Margaret Thatcher, yeah.
Very funny. Very funny.
Hi, Jay. In regards to Bill Carter's book, The Late Shift, do you feel you got a fair shake seeing that he was a New York Times reporter from New York? Do you feel like he was able to give you a fair share?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, people call him as they see him, and that's how they see him. Like, someone could look at you and go, you're very handsome, or someone could say, I don't think you're attractive at all. Well, who's right? I don't know. It's all subjective. I thought he did a pretty good job in the book with the information at hand at the time. Yeah, I didn't have a lot. I mean, little things I would say that, well, that didn't really happen, and this part isn't necessarily true. But when you write a story, you try to capture the overall tone of the situation. And I think he did that fine. You know, I might have said, no, I had a red tie on that day, or somebody's name was misspelled. But for the most part, I thought it was pretty good.
Hi, Jay. How you doing?
How are ya?
You had made a bet a couple months back with Howard Stern on The Tonight Show.
He'll never pay me that $10,000.
And I was wondering, yeah, it was for $10,000, and I was wondering where that stands.
No, Howard Stern said that he would come on and, of course, beat me and Letterman, and he would have the #1 show. And I said, within 6 months, I'll bet you $10,000. And then we shook hands on it. And then, of course, it didn't come about. And, you know, Howard, well, there's some other reason it didn't happen. You know, I changed my mind, or they didn't do this. But, no, I'll never see that dough.
Tell us about, before you started on The Tonight Show, which we just saw, when did you start, or where did you get your first break?
Well, I started up in Boston. I started, you know, in colleges. And when I was in college, I went to Emerson College in Boston. And Boston has lots of coffee houses and people with no money willing to be entertained by people with no talent, essentially. I mean, it was more or less kids watching kids. It was just a good place where you could sort of go. It was mostly, you know, you'd go to like a club and kids with guitars singing I Hate My Parents, and, you know, the typical sort of whatever you'd have in those. And then there'd be comedy MCs, and that's sort of how I got started. Just a lot of places around. Everybody wanted to be a folk singer at the time. Nobody really wanted to be a comedian. So you could just sort of take the mic and introduce people and then make fun of them when they were through, which is basically what I did. And through there, I kind of got into the Playboy clubs and some of the other clubs around town. And they didn't have comedy clubs, so I was forced to work in strip joints, which will cost a horrible fate for a 19 or 20-year-old single male to be humiliated on stage with naked, attractive women. But again, one of those things one must endure.
You're New Rochelle raised.
Right.
Very tight, close-knit Italian family.
Well, actually, my mother's from Scotland, and my father was Italian. So you have these two different factions, which, to me, are where a lot of the humor would come from, because the Italians were very outgoing and gregarious, and would always cook far more food than anyone could eat. And the Scotch side, again, very lovely, but different. I mean, when they would get together, each side would try to pull you. You know, I always remember my Aunt Nettie going, look at the waste, Jamie. Look at how many meatballs for those. No one could eat all that food, Jamie. It's going to go to waste. And, you know, and then my uncle, hey, what's the matter with your Aunt Nettie? Pretty tight, isn't she? Went, rah, 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 you know. So it was always very funny to me, because I would go to the Scotch side, and I always remember my aunt say, would you like a scone and a Coca-Cola, Jamie? And she'd open the cupboard, and they would keep soda in the cupboard. I don't know why. It cost money to, I don't know. But and then she'd pour me a warm Coke, and it'd be flat, and I'd have like this stale biscuit, you know. And then I'd go to the Italian side, and there would be far more. I mean, my Uncle Frank would make spaghetti, and it was like a 5-gallon pot. I always remember him cooking. They would like this. They would stir, you know. And as a kid, there was just huge amounts of food. It was just funny to watch the two sides argue. You know, they would just argue because, I mean, they all got along. I don't mean that, but it was just a different way. The Italians were always very touchy-feeling, hugging. Yes. Stop hugging me, will you? Stop it. Yes. You know, and they would always be put, and as a kid, you know, you would see this, and each side would sort of tell you some horrible thing about the other side when you stayed with them. And it was just very funny. It was just a fun atmosphere to grow up in.
We are in New York City with Jay Leno, and we'll be back in just a moment.
I see you in Aladdin. We're talking now with, of course, Sting, and from ABC News, Mr. Sam Donaldson. How are you?
Jay Leno with a fabulous week from New York City. Here's Here's the crazy car man. No kidding. The man does have cars. This is a very serious... Here you are with Barbara Walters buzzing around somebody's neighborhood.
Oh, that's my
I don't know who's driving.
That's me driving.
Oh, you're on the right side there. That's the weirdest looking car I've ever seen. What is that?
It's a Morgan three-wheeler. In England, anything less than 4 wheels could be taxed as a motorcycle. So they had a lot of three-wheel cars.
Right, here you are, Barbara, saying, how come you have all these cars? And you're saying, because I like cars. If this one's broke, I have to do this because we're not allowed to use the audio.
Well, it was like trying to explain cars to your mom, you know. Why do you have so many? Well, in case one breaks, you know. No, I don't mean because she's my mom, but you know, she would say, well, why do you need so many cars? Well, you have to ask. Well, I don't know. In case one doesn't start and you have to go to work, you know. Yes.
At what age did you begin to realize your aspirations to become a comedian, and who was your best audience?
Well, I mean, when you grow up in New England, you don't really think about being a comedian because you don't know anybody that's a comedian. Again, I always remember my, one of my Scottish aunts going, you can't be a comedian unless your father was a comedian. I don't know, in Hollywood, your father has to have been a comedian. You can't just go be a comedian. And I said, oh, gee, I didn't know. Then, of course, on the other side, my uncle, you want to be a comedian, you get yourself a television show. That's what you do. So both of this advice was just, you couldn't use it. Once you get yourself a TV show, you want to be a comedian. So again, I was as far away geographically as, like in Hollywood, you meet 9-year-old kids who want to be lighting directors, I mean, they know about those things, and I always assumed I would maybe try and be a funny guy on the radio station or something like that. I grew up in a very small town, and we had a weekly newspaper, not even... and again, when all your news is filtered through... Well, here's an example. A small town. Our paper was the Andover Townsman. Still is. Comes out once a week. Just give you an example of the difference. When you... Let's say the headline would be, Japan destroyed by earthquake. Hundreds of thousands of people injured. Millions dead. Industry in ruins. The Andover Townsman would be... local couple cancels Asian tour. That would be the headline. You see a couple standing there, and they would explain how they couldn't go because of a problem. I mean, that's... If you come from a small town, you know what I'm talking about. It's just an odd... It's just a funny way of...
People at stoplights yell across, how did you get your start?
Yeah, that happens. I don't know. I think I'm a pretty friendly person. I like to talk to people, so... It drives my wife a little batty sometimes because, I mean, the other night we were having dinner, and the guy says, oh, I see you having dinner. I don't want to bother you. I said, oh, thank you. And then he sits down. Now, can I sign? Oh, okay, I sign this. It's sort of hard, especially if, like my wife and I talk, but honey, I don't see why we have to. She gets a little bothered by it.
The washing machine bit. Set this up for us.
Oh, this guy, This is a lot of times people come, I like to do my own warm-up and talk to the crowd, and this guy was in the audience one night and said that he has this trick where he gets inside washing machines, he puts himself in handcuffs or something and escapes inside a washing machine. I said, well, come back tomorrow night and sign this disclaimer and see what... Well, here he is. Just odd people, 1, 2, 3, you ready? I guess this is how they make white people, huh? You put in there for the here. Okay. Do not try this at home, by the way. You okay? I'm watching for a signal here. He's getting whiter. I'm sure that poor guy is thrilled. We never even saw his face. You just saw a body in him. Yes?
Jay, I just was curious what your initial reaction was to the news that Arsenio was retiring from late-night TV.
You know, I never had any problem there. People always think if one show goes up, the other one goes down. The press in this country does tend to make everything either big winner or huge loser. You know, you can have 3 or 4 successful shows. They always make it like one's king and one's out on the street. I thought Arsenio did a terrific show. I mean, I saw the press go after him for the Louis Farrakhan thing and whatnot, but I also thought he did a great job. We had the riots in L.A. He calmed everybody down. He had some gang members on. I thought he did some good shows with Jesse Jackson. I mean, did we have some problems? Yeah, just like that, for example. We had huge problems. Yeah, but, you know, he's another guy in the game, and I think I have respect for anyone that can last 5 or 6 or however many years you're on doing this. I mean, you know how hard it is. And maybe it's naive, but I like the fact that, you know, occasionally I would get African Americans or black people, whatever you want to call it, up to me and say, oh, I like you better than Arsenio. And I know white people go up to Arsenio and go, you know, I like you better than Leno. And that made me feel good. I like the fact that you could have a black man and a white man both competing and each one doing well, and there's crossover, and some like this better and some like that better. I like the fact that whatever problems there were never racial in nature. They were just the typical problems that people have on booking guests and who does what first and all that type of thing. But I would rather have him on than off. I would rather have another late-night live show on than 2 Roseannes in a night court. You know, if people would rather watch, you know what I'm saying? I mean, if people would rather watch something they've seen 50 times, in answer to your question, I wish him all the best, and anytime he wants to be a guest on my show, he's more than welcome. I thought he was good for the game. What else can I say?
And we'll be back with Jay Leno in just a moment.
Guest accommodations provided by the Hotel Maclo. Experience style and sophistication for business or leisure. The New York Times says the interiors are among the city's most impressive. For reservations, call 1-800-MACK-LOW.
The first thing a psychiatrist needs is a well-furnished office. Once I had that, I hung out my shingle and hit the road. Psychiatry! Psychiatry man! Mobile psychiatry, we come to you. And this looks like a good spot here. Pull over.
Jay, I know you really enjoy your work, but I was just wondering if you ever have any aspirations to do anything else later on, or you want to...
Yeah, something meaningful.
No, not really. No, I can't. I mean, do I want to? Well, modern interpretive dance, of course, is my real. All right, I have to say it now. That's what I'm going to get into. No, I don't actually. Just try to write these monologues every day to drive you batty enough.
Well, you know, for a comedian, you do not appear to me to be neurotic.
No, I'm not neurotic at all. And I find that this particular generation, with the exception of Richard Lewis, who is neurotic, Seinfeld, most of the guys, I don't find them neurotic at all. Yes.
Jay, I was wondering how many cars you have and whereabouts you store them.
Oh, well, I'll get you the address. You're a stalker, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a stalker. Well, I have about 23 or 24 old cars. My wife thinks there's 12. I just go, oh, this is the red one, honey. You remember this one. You saw this one before, but most of them I've had since college days.
Yeah. Hi, Jay. Is there an interview you haven't done yet that you'd like to do? So when you want to get on your show?
Well, of course, everybody tries to get Elvis. That's the big one now. You know. But the Kmart people are very, very, you know, they just don't tell you what story's going to be in or where.
Yes.
Hi, I think your opening monologue is real wacky. Do you write it yourself? And if so, how do you make it so funny?
Yeah, I don't think myself. No, we all work with a group of writers. You know, I'm sort of the head editor. Sometimes you get a joke from a writer and it's perfect, you do it that way. Sometimes I change the punchline, sometimes I change the opening. We start with about 200 jokes, maybe a little bit more, and then try to pare it down to 15 or 18. And the real trick is trying not to cover the same subject every night. You know, you pray for those Tanya Hardings and the Paula Jones and the, you know, the Buttafuoco's. Thank God for the Buttafuoco's. And I think Phil would agree with me on the Buttafuoco's. Yeah. Yes, dear.
I'm so excited to see Phil.
Oh.
I never thought I was going to see Jay Leno,
Well,
too.
how are you?
It's wonderful. Have you ever had anybody on your show that you weren't able to get a response from, or that was very difficult?
Sometimes that happens. It's different. It's not like a news show where you're trying to get people to say something that they don't want to say. Most people come to the Tonight Show because they want to be there. They have something to sell or a story to tell. So in that way, we really don't invite people on that you don't like. By that sense, I mean, sometimes in other afternoon shows, you might see, let's say, a woman who's famous for having slept with so many people or something of that nature. I mean, you don't do that. You don't do those kind of news stories. It's mostly people on their way up, people on their way down, or people that are there. You don't go out looking for dragging someone on who doesn't want to come on. Most people want to come on. So.
Right, but some are more responsive than others.
Oh, sure.
And some do unpredictable things. The man's name is Goldthwait.
Oh, Bob Goldthwait. Yeah. He's
a comic.
Right.
And you're doing the interview with him.
Right.
Tell him what happened.
Well, a little backstory. He had been on Arsenio the week before, and he was upset that Paramount had canceled Arsenio. So I guess he had knocked over some TV monitors and tore up the set pretty good. So I called him up and I said, Bobby, you want to come on and talk about this and explain why you did this? And he said, yeah, okay. And he came on and, as we were talking, proceeded to set the stage on fire. Well, here, do we have a tape of this? No, you don't.
No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
not releasable.
Oh, it's not? Oh, I'm
no,
sorry.
NBC has it in a gigantic vault. The man sprayed the chair with lighter fluid.
And set the chair on fire.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I like Bobby, and he's not banned from the show or anything, but sometimes comics you have to sort of hit him with a brick a little bit to go, what are you doing? You know, he goes, well, you could put it out with a fire extinguisher. And I go, I mean, I don't think he meant any malice. It was just trying to be funny. He got a little out of hand.
Hey, Jay, what's up?
How you doing?
I was wondering what you thought about Johnny Carson's recent appearance in Letterman. He did that drive-by.
Everybody, people make such a huge deal out of it. I mean, David and Johnny had a relationship long before I came along. And I think people are allowed to have favorites. I think Johnny handled himself very well, especially if you read that book he was talking about. There were so many things that went on, and I thought he was a perfect gentleman and a nice guy and always been very nice to me. As I said, he and David had a relationship, and they would go out to dinner and were friends long before I even started doing The Tonight Show. So that's fine, and maybe someday I'd like to think, oh, gee, maybe he'll come on with us and do something, and that would be great. But God bless him. Whatever he wants is fine with me.
Here you are with, I think this kid is 12.
Oh,
Here is another talk show host. This is all we need. Another talk show, and I promise you this young man will have
he's 11,
one.
Phil. Actually.
He's 11. Watch
years
this.
Old. Well, congratulations on turning 12.
Thank you, and I am so happy to be here because this is like a dream,
Oh, good.
Like telling, I'm on the Jay Leno show. Okay.
Oh, well, thanks.
So.
Nice to see you. Now, how long have you been interested in money in this whole thing?
Oh, well, I'm 12 now, as you've mentioned.
Right.
Really since I was 9.
Since you were 9?
Yeah, because, my mom was a radio show.
Oh.
And I listened to her radio show, and she does seminars.
On finance?
Yes, on finance, and I went to those. And just through listening, I was able to really learn how to do this stuff. And that's how I was really able to write the book.
So you listened to your mom. That's a first right there.
Yeah.
So what grade are you in now?
I'm in 6th grade in Maplewood Middle School.
Oh, okay.
And High 6C, which is my class.
Oh, okay. And you're from New Jersey?
Maplewood, New Jersey, yes.
Okay, you told me New York, but is it...
Very savvy.
Now, he was he's a stock, he's a financial analyst. He's only 11, 12, just turned 12, I keep saying it. But I gave him $1,000 last month, and I said, invest this for me. So he'll be back in about a month and a half, and we'll see how he made out. But he really knows his stuff.
Huh. The Tonight Show, having just wrapped up very recently a spectacular week from New York City, reminds us of how much we've lost. I'm going to tell you the truth. There is much more excitement with Jay Leno in this building. Everything's buzzing, and everybody's wide awake, and it's fun to come to work. You have to come back more often. We'll be back with Jay Leno and Jeff. Yes.
Jay, I was wondering how many writers you have on your show, and being from Little Rock, do you ever get tired of making fun of the president?
Oh, no.
You're from Little Rock?
No, I never get tired of making fun of the president. No, well, it's so funny, because when Bush and Quare were in, I would get these letters from people. Well, you're obviously a Democrat, and you're a Republican, you don't like them, and the president's doing a fine job, and quit picking on him and Quayle, and someday you'll get yours. And now I get the letter, well, dear Mr. Republican, I hope you're happy with your president. I mean, your job is to sort of make fun of who's in office, and when you have, most people don't know the SNL scandals, and it's pretty boring and whatnot, but when you have sex and, it's great. That's what everybody knows. I mean, everybody's had somebody in this situation. I mean, it's flirting, and it's a did she or didn't she, and it's just, you can't help but make jokes about it, because they're the kind of jokes that go right to the heart of what everybody thinks is funny, sex and money, So we try not to. I try to vary it a little bit, but now that Quayle's back in the picture, it should even out, Yes, sir.
Hi, Jay. How are you?
Good, good.
Good. I'm from Philadelphia, and I'm on vacation, and I am not going back to Philadelphia unless I have my picture taken with you. Would that be all right? But I want Phil to take the picture.
Okay, we'd be happy to do that. And this audience will be on the edge of the seat as we take over the... I'll do this for you in the break, if it's all right with you. All right. Yes,
question, sir. Thank you.
Jay, have you done anything exciting this week in New York besides work?
No, we've just been here all week, so no, we haven't done much. No, actually, well, it's exciting being here. It's exciting during the show. But no, I haven't really had a chance to get out too much.
Wasn't long ago you went to a Star Trek convention, an actual Trekkie convention?
Yeah, this was really odd. I mean, this is the sort of thing I love, is when you go and you meet real people just doing what they do. And I like to go out in the street, just myself and the camera person and as small a crew as we can get. And these are the real people at the Star Trek convention.
Here we go. Let's go. Cue 'em, Pasadena.
Kenara, I'm Jay, and you're,
Qatar.
Where are you guys from?
San Bernardino.
And you?
Redlands.
Redlands and San Bernardino.
Hi, Jay. When are you coming to Boston?
I don't know. I'd like to do a week of shows there, too. I mean, Boston, Chicago, there are a bunch of cities. I'd like to take this night show on the road and just do it in different places. We learned an awful lot this week. I mean, when I looked at the set we had here, I realized, we got to make our LA set smaller and bring Branford and I closer together, because right now we communicate across that big stage, and here we have the big stage on this side, and it's just Branford and I, and I realized, that's much better. So doing these shows is just a learning experience. You do them every day, and you try to incorporate these ideas where you can.
Hi. Who's been your favorite person to interview?
My favorite? I sort of like the political people. I mean, it's fun meeting the big movie stars and all those people, but when you're in the business, you kind of know what those tricks are. Politics is... when I had former President Carter on, and I had Norman Schwarzkopf, and as someone who once flunked social studies, it's fun to have, call Mr. Robichaud, my high school teacher, and say, the former president is waiting to talk to me.
Hey, do you get a lot of young comedians coming to you and wanting to open a start?
Oh, sure. I've done 90 since we took over in the last 2 years, about at least once a week. And that's the most fun. I really like comics, and it's fun to break them on the Tonight Show and see people go on and get series and things. Because you watch and you go, which one of these guys is going to take my job? So it's fun to sort of...
It is, I think, instructive to recall. I don't recall the whole monologue, but you did not burn the town down in that green suit on Johnny Carson.
Well, actually, it went pretty good, because I got called over, which was the sort of mark of...
Oh, it did? I thought it was
Johnny
fun.
liked it that time because I think it was the first time, at least in a while, that somebody yelled out. So that guy was heckling me from the crowd.
Made it work for you.
Yeah, it wasn't one of those, and then you run off the stage type of deal. Having worked clubs, I had a little experience in that area, so that it kind of took off from that point.
Well, I was going to try to make the point that you don't have to jump out of a cake necessarily. There is a second life.
Yeah, you better jump out of the cake.
Really?
Just roll out of the cake.
You don't think you'd have gotten another shot then?
Well, you might have.
You say you got called over. That's an ad lib. That's a momentary judgment by the king, isn't it? Whether you get called.
I remember one time I was on, and they say, "All right, stand on your mark." When Fred DeCordova looks over at you and goes like this, that means he wants you to sit down with Johnny. When he goes like this, just means wave and go behind the curtain. So. I remember my second time has come on and thank you, ho! I'm standing there, I look over. Meanwhile, I see Fred just talking to someone. I'm going, ho! So I'm standing there, and the applause is beginning to, you know, die down, and hey, thank you. Meanwhile, Fred is, you know, I'm going, and he goes, oh, I can come on over here. Oh, geez. It's probably like 3 seconds, but it was like a nightmare standing up there.
In regard to your personal life, do you have any children? And also, do you have time to spend with your children? Because I know that you always say you're up all night riding with your riders.
No, we don't have any children, so I have all kinds of time to spend with them. No, my wife and I don't. We don't have any children.
Yes. Do you still do pasta after the show at home?
No, actually, I've trimmed down a little bit, so now it's rice cakes or something. But well, I used to make spaghetti every night,
right.
So that was out of.
And your wife is. Excuse me. Your wife's name is Mavis.
Right.
We don't see a whole lot of you, Mavis, in the motorcycles, and that's her choice?
All right. She's not, her father was an actor, so she's kind of been through the whole thing a little bit, and she's not a great one for the spotlight. I mean, to her, it's always, you know, we walk down the street, and people go, hey, Mavis. She goes, what? We're in Milwaukee, and these two women walked by and went, hey, Mavis. And she was, like, stunned that they knew her name. She's like, well, how do these people know who I am? It's all show business.
Hi, Jay. I wondered if you have brothers and sisters, and do they have your sense of humor?
I have a brother. My brother's 10 years older than I. Well, yeah. I don't think he has my sense of humor, but it's different. My brother's probably more like the Scotch side. My temperament is probably more like the Italian side. It's just the funniest thing to me when putting those two together.
Worked in your case, and we'll be back with Jay Leno in just a moment. Yes, ma'am.
I'd first like to say welcome, Jay, to New York, but this is for you, Donahue.
Yes.
I was wondering how we can get more tickets accessible to people with MS, multiple sclerosis.
Well, that's very
They
easy.
would like to come in.
All you have to do is write us. I promise you that. We'd be happy to. Yes.
Jay, I understand while you were here in New York, you had a little bit of a problem over there with the New York Mets.
Oh, yeah, we ran that last night. That was funny, though. They got, you know, I do all those Mets jokes.
What was the problem?
Well, they did that old thing where they call it a three-man lift. They do this thing, oh, we're going to pick you up and, you know, blah, blah. Meanwhile, it's just a trick to try and dump all sorts of disgusting fluids on your head, which they did. Which you had last night.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Hi, Jay. Hi,
Hi.
Phil. I should say hi, Phil.
Thank you. I feel better.
Jay, I saw you in a movie not too long ago. I don't know how old it is, but you play the part of a policeman.
Oh, yeah, that was...
Are you interested in movies?
Not really. I like to watch other people in movies.
I'll tell you, it was a good movie.
Oh, well, thank you.
We really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
You should be.
Can you...
Here is the movie. Here's the movie about which you speak. He won 3 Academy Awards for this movie. Watch this. Roll it.
Oh, no.
License and registration, please.
It's a cop.
Detective Costa?
Nice going, teenagers. I'm working on a bunch for 6 months, and you two come along and just screw it up.
Sorry, we thought it was a couple guys drag racing.
Drag race? What the hell you think this is? Why don't you tell it to the half a dozen DEA agents on the other side of the bridge?
Look, we're sorry, Officer Costa.
Hey, sorry, tell it to the feds. You know, I ought to run you two in. But, look, I'm going to give you a break. In fact, I think we can handle this internally.
Yes. You enjoyed it.
Well,
and they paid you.
Oh, yeah.
You have a reputation for keeping your comedy clean. Do you find it difficult to keep your jokes and get your material?
No, I don't find it difficult at all. I mean, most comedians are clean until about 15 years ago. It's just, again, it's not something I get out there and preach and, oh, you have to do this. It's just I always work that way. And to me, it's more fun to come up with, it's like you can call somebody a fat pig and get a laugh. You can say, a rather stout gentleman, you know, and then people sort of chuckle and know what you mean. To me, it's always fun to find the word or the phrase that means something close to what you mean without actually saying it. You know, to me, I get these young comics that come to me, you know, like they send me a tape of themselves on Def Comedy Jam or something, and I'll say, yeah, this is funny, and they honestly don't understand why you can't say these words on television. They don't even understand the difference. You know, I started out clean, and occasionally maybe you work dirty if it's later. You could. It's real hard to take a dirty joke and make it clean. It's real easy to take a clean joke and make it dirty. You know, it's just a matter of being able to work any kind of an audience. And I feel sorry for a lot of the kids that start right out on the cable shows, because the cable shows want you to be dirty, but ultimately there's just a limited market for that. You can only go so far. I mean, if you're a good performer, you should be able to adapt to any sort of situation that you're in, and that's what I try to do.
The Donahue show spent a week in Los Angeles not long ago and had a walk-on by Jay Leno. This is Burbank. This is all you got to do is get him to walk on, and he makes them laugh. Watch this. There's some mistake here. This is a male stripper show. Now, are you going to...
Oh, God, it's sweet. You know, I used to do a joke about you in my act. You know?
You did?
No, I said one day I was working in Las Vegas. I watched Phil for the whole week. One day he had murderers, then he had rapists, then he had prostitutes, then he had pornographers. At the end of the week, they said, all guests at the Donahue show stayed at the beautiful Drake Hotel. And I said, what? Why would you want to go to this hotel?
Yeah.
That's the original.
Yes, ma'am.
It's called recycling.
This is not a question, it's a statement.
Okay.
Watching your shows, I find out that laughter is the best medicine, because I don't feel my arthritis at all when I watch your shows.
And we'll be back with Dr. Leno in just a moment. Well, you know, we're 27 years old this here show right here.
Right.
And you're not even out of the womb. But we are pleased to celebrate the 2nd anniversary of Jay Leno on The Tonight Show, and we do it right here with this cake. Hold that up. Here. Just hold it up like this. There you go. Joe, Jennifer.
Harley Davidson hat for you and one for...
Yeah. You wanted to ask a question. Yes.
Hi, Jay. Congratulations.
How's the cake?
That's good.
Yeah. Good cake.
I was wondering, do you enjoy working in California?
Yes. Yeah. Do you enjoy working in what?
Do you enjoy the audience in California more than New York?
No, I like them both, actually.
He likes them both.
I like them both. I mean, they're both fun. They're both here. Oh, a jacket.
This is for you.
Why, thank you,
the
Phil.
Harley people wanted you to have this.
I figured it was donated by somebody else. Thank you, Phil. Very nice.
There you go. You got your cap?
I
Where's
have
my
a hat.
cap?
I have a hat. Here, you
I
can wear
was
mine.
going to get a cap here.
We should share this with the audience here, Phil.
Yes, ma'am. You wanted to. You do wear a helmet, Jay. Tell the people.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering if you've ever had any embarrassing moments on your show?
No.
Yeah, I had an embarrassing moment. Most of the guys wouldn't think I was embarrassing, but, you know, I always like to go visit my guests sometimes before the show begins, and I was knocking on the door, and Julia Roberts, I thought she said, come in, and, gee, she was completely naked when I walked in. Horrible.
Join me in thanking Jay Leno for our...
Have some cake, you guys. You guys want some cake?
Services provided and promotional fees paid by the following.
Menopause, a natural change of life. All natural Rejuvex supplies important nutrients during and after menopause. Try Rejuvex.
Introducing Clear Acrylic Gel, new from Jonelle. The high-impact acrylic finish, quick and easy Clear Acrylic Gel. Diamond-hard natural nails every time.